ladies and gentlemen. Dato Giassini Maidinsa, CEO of PBA and a board member of Penang Institute, Professor Chan Ngai Wang, President of Water Watch Penang, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I am happy to officiate the forum with the theme Water Demand Management in Penang on behalf of Penang Institute and my colleagues who put so much efforts in organizing it today. I would also like to take this opportunity to convey my gratitude and extend my warm welcome to our distinguished guests, speakers and participants of this forum. It is a great pleasure to be here today to discuss one of the most important issues of our era, water sustainability. We sincerely hope that this forum will help increase water conservation efforts in our home state, Penang. Ladies and gentlemen, globally there is an increasing concern among policymakers and governmental and non-governmental agencies on the rising threats of freshwater resources and water-related problems and diseases. It was estimated that around 1.1 billion people worldwide lack access to water, and a total of 2.7 billion find water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. Inadequate sanitation is also a problem for 2.4 billion people, as they are exposed to diseases such as cholera, fever and other waterborne illnesses. 2 million people, mostly children, die each year from diarrheal diseases alone. Climate change is also expected to play a significant role in increasing the global water demand while shrinking water supplies. This phenomenon is altering patterns of weather and water around the world, causing shortages and droughts in some areas and floods in others. At the current consumption rate of water worldwide, this situation will only get worse. By 2025, 2/3 of the world's population may face water shortages, and the ecosystems around the world will suffer even more. Similarly, Penang is also facing water concerns, although there is adequate rainfall, which we can all experience these days. Presently, the challenge faced by Penang is securing a reliable raw water source. It was estimated that 80% of the Penang water supply comes from the Muda River and Kedah. The Muda River can only sustain Kedah and Penang's raw water needs until 2020. It's not long. The demand for water in Penang is also expected to increase with the increase in human population, urbanization and rapid development. It is clear that there is a real need for new, reliable and secure water sources. It is important that Penang consider new possibilities such as rainwater harvesting, water recycling and desalination that will ensure water sufficiency in the future. These technologies have been successfully implemented in Singapore. However, it should be made aware that the price of these technologies will be higher when compared to the cost of conventional water treatment in Penang. Nevertheless, it may well be the price that Penangites have to pay to avoid water rationing and attain water security for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Penang is a state that promises to avoid water rationing at all costs. In 2014, rationing was implemented in places like Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, Selangor, as well as in some districts in Perak, for example Taiping, Negeri Sembilan and Johor. In 2015, rationing was implemented in Negeri Sembilan and Johor due to water shortages. Certain parts of Selangor experienced water interruptions due to contaminated raw water sources during the recent dry season. However, there was no water rationing implementation in Penang. This was possible due to the effective water demand management strategies implemented by PBA. As a result of these strategies, there has been no incidence of rationing in Penang to date. PBA continues to supply water to around 576,000 customers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The manner in which PBA managed this threat reflects its business philosophy in managing water supply sustainably for Penang. However, PBA's efforts alone are not sufficient to achieve water sustainability in our state. The public should also play a pivotal role in reducing the water demand, and this can be achieved through responsible and efficient water consumption. Presently, Penang's per capita domestic water consumption is 291 liters, which is the highest in the whole country. Singapore's per capita water consumption is 151 liters. This clearly shows that Penang's per capita domestic water consumption is more than double. It is important to realize that in order to ensure Penang has sufficient water supply beyond the year of 2020, Penang's per capita domestic water consumption must reduce. And this can only be reduced through serious commitment and cooperation from all of us, from the public. The speakers today will discuss more on the measures that can be taken and have taken to avoid water crises in Penang. Ladies and gentlemen, the importance of water can never be stressed enough. This is why we have deliberately chosen the World Water Day, which we are all celebrating today, to talk about water demand management and conservation in Penang. The speakers today will highlight the importance of water demand management and discuss water-saving measures and technologies the public can adopt to ensure water security. We sincerely hope that this forum is informative to all of you and creates an opportunity to raise awareness amongst Penangites on future water sustainability. We also hope that this forum provides a platform to exchange views and ideas about water concerns here. Today's forum is a step forward towards achieving water sustainability in Penang. Thank you again to my fellow colleagues at PI who have put so much efforts, and thanks to all of you for coming here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ting, for delivering. Thank you, Mr. Ting, for delivering the opening speech. Now let us welcome our first speaker, Professor Chan, to deliver the talk of today's forum.
Very good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Penang Institute for inviting me. Good afternoon to Dr. Engineer Justin, my Nisa, CEO of PBA, the other VIPs. Dr. Ong is also here, old friend, and also many other friends. Similar faces we see all the time at all these talks. They never change. But it's good to meet old friends. So, this afternoon, I have planned some slides to share with you the experiences of Water Watch Penang, particularly my NGO, in educating the people of Penang regarding water, raising awareness, and the challenges we are facing. And also, I'd like to share with you some of the successful examples of educating and raising awareness. I think I'll just step up here a bit. Okay, as I speak now, maybe we don't realize that a lot of people in the world are not as fortunate as we are. We want water, we just go to the tap, it's 24 hours the water is flowing. In Penang in particular, and water is good, drinkable from the tap. But Penangites, they will always put a filter, even though it's drinkable. So as you see, lots of problems in the world. There's no need for me to explain. One of those examples is this. People in India, Africa, they have to walk many miles to get water every day. Many girls in Africa don't have the chance to go to school compared to our girls. This frightening example is in my university, USM. My students, 80 to 90% are girls, So in future, we have a serious social problem. not a water problem, a social problem. They cannot find husbands with the same standing as they are. But it's happening in other countries, girls don't go to school. So lots of problems. And you can see our tap flows 24 hours, but in many countries, don't have to go far. Indonesia, Philippines, India, it's not 24 hours. I say you don't believe, but this is all from the internet, from the World Bank. India is never, there is not even one city in India that has 24 hours. Not even one, not Mumbai, not New Delhi. It's just 7 hours to 13 hours at the most, because the water pressure is very low and there's not enough water. So if you live far away from the treatment plant, right at the end there, you have to wake up at night to get water, because all these waters, when they switch on the tap in the daytime, no water will get to your house. So you have to wait for these people in the front to go to sleep. Then the water flows to your house. So you have to wake up 3 o'clock in the morning to collect water. So this is the problem faced by people in other parts of the world. So consider ourselves very lucky, but are our people paying attention to the water? Obviously this question is $1 million question. So the outline of my talk basically is this: share with you some of the examples. What is the major water issue in Penang? What is Water Watch Penang and what do we do? And some of the successful examples of saving water. Penang is a water stressed state. I always say Penang is a water poor state, but that doesn't mean don't say that. We are water stressed, not poor. Because the word poor is not very good, brings a negative connotation. But actually we are very poor. Because 80% of water comes from Sungai Muda out of Penang. You know, the Muda River flows into Penang and we take 80%. So Kedah has always been asking us to pay up. So far we haven't paid yet, but they are building a lot of dams upstream. Eventually there's no water coming into Penang. That's the time that we have to pay them. So anyway, this proves that we don't have enough water. 80% comes from outside our boundary. And also, if you look at, this was given by one of the consultants study, our Penang water is actually very, very low compared to Malaysia. Malaysia is a country rich in water, but not Penang. We have only 600 cubic meter per capita renewable water. Singapore, of course, is very bad. Singapore is 110. But if you compare to the whole Malaysia, we have about 20,000 cubic meter. So Penang actually, because of the small size of the state and it's very, very developed, we really don't have much. So we have gazetted all the catchment, but I think it's a little bit too late for that, because only 5–6% of the land is underwater catchment. If we had, gazetted 50%, maybe it can help, but now it's too small already. Anyway, so we are very rapidly developing state. We need water for almost everything, not just for drinking, for our industries, for our festivals, we don't have much agriculture, but for our swimming pool, for our tourism industry, everything is water. And of course, CM says heads will roll, no rationing. And the water tariff increase has not, so far has not been able to curb the blatant wastage of water. So the major water issue in Penang is Penangites use a lot of water. That's why we have this target here. But I didn't see the bull's eye. I saw 26. No, 26 is an impossible target. Even for Singapore, 260 yes. For the year 2020. We are now 291. Okay. As you can see here, Penang is the highest waterways user in the whole country. And the reason being, we are modern way of life, a lot of water equipments that waste water. Water is very cheap. I only pay $250 per month. So it's very difficult to tell people to save water. Okay, this is what we need to do to reduce this from 291 to 260. And in order to do that, we need to educate people, raise their awareness, and do many drastic things. Do you know how Singapore is able to convince their population to reduce water consumption? We had a dispute with Singapore some time ago. The papers, came out, and so Singapore said, "You don't want Malaysians to bully you? You save water for your country." That was the message that was sent, and they did that. So what do we do, Dato'? Don't want Kedah to bully us? Save water for your state. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a media person, perhaps, perhaps. Anyway, so Water Watch Penang, we think that education is the most important, most effective tool. In Water Watch Penang, we have volunteers coming on and off. So I train them, and after 2–3 years, they finish education, then they go away. So very difficult to retain them because we don't pay them. But the only people who keep coming back to us are those who came to me without me going to look for them. There were a few girls who came to me asking to join, and these are the few girls who actually joined until today. They are still around. They are working in Penang, but they are still around. So sustainability actually, because they are very educated, they are very sensitized about water, about a lot of things. They will scold me if I drink that water because they don't drink from the water. These few girls, always watching me. Okay. Penang, we have a hotbed of NGOs, Water Watch being one of them, and we do lots of things. But Water Watch Penang is the only NGO dealing only with water. Like what WWF, they have animals, they have plants, they have lots of things, but Water Watch is only water. And focus in Penang. We actually started off from Surrey. Surrey had a forum way back in 1997, and then we felt that water was one of the big issues, and we formed Water Watch in Penang, 1997. Yeah, maybe the next room, this room was not built at the time. So we registered in 1998 under ROS, and our main aim is to promote study, awareness, knowledge and conservation of water resources to ensure that water resources, not only in Penang but also in Malaysia, remain sustainable in the long run. Our main partner, of course, is PBA. We have worked with them for a long time, and just now Joyce asked me, is this 10-year program you signed with Dato? No, it's not signed, because we believe one another by word of mouth, MOE only. It's actually 30 years. Dato has said so himself. But I don't know when Dato and you retire, what will happen. Nobody knows. We hope you will carry on, because we are doing what we can. Okay, World Water Day is one of the activities we do every year. This year it will be on 23rd of April in Taman Quarry, beside Botanic Gardens. And so every year we have lots of programs. So one of the programs that we do is with the schools. Most of our activities with the schools, we teach them about the importance of water, monitor water, the quality of the water in the rivers, importance of river catchment and so on. And at the end of the day, students are more sensitized. I think so far, over the 10 years or more that we have been doing this program, maybe one year we do about 500 to 1,000 students. We would have reached a few thousand students. And I always get very encouraged when sometimes students meet me, in the supermarket, they come and say hello to me and say, well, last time I joined your program, now I only use this water, use that water. It's encouraging me. But very few in far between, not a lot. We do the quiz also. This is actually for the school, water quiz, only in Penang. We had the idea of making it into a TV program, but the TV people didn't want to come. Okay, some of the materials that we have produced, water CD, books and so on for educating the public, and we send all this to the schools. And we hope that the teachers in the schools will use these materials to teach the students. So, some of the things that we have done, education, we also get involved with rainfall harvesting, the assessment of national park, the Penang National Park we were also involved, consulting, we're doing survey and so on, campaign, we have done, not just with eBay but also with Fongkang, and then we work closely with USM for research and so on. So some of the activities that we've done, rainfall harvesting in condominium, which I will share just a bit later, even giant supermarket and so on. We also organize seminars, forums like this one here. Other education activities, we do carry out water survey research as a watchdog for water pricing, for water leakage and so on, and also network the others. And I think a lot of people like to see this slide. Saving water is not just about using less water, because the water footprint cuts across the board. The things you need water to do, to produce. You eat less meat, you actually save water. And consumerism society, you don't use, nowadays I don't read the newspaper, every newspaper costs 660 liters of water to produce. If you read online, then you save water. So, and also, of course, water, no industries. Our free trade zone will collapse. One day without water, you know how much one factory will lose. Millions they will lose, no water coming in. So, our recent partners, PSP, SPEN, so we work with anyone. So, mostly if they are interested in education, we will work with them. So, all the stakeholders are involved in our work. Our main ultimate idea is to create a water saving society. and change from the present water wasting one. When we are using 291, we are not saving water. Singapore is only using 150, so I think that should be the benchmark. United Nations is 165. Okay, some examples now. Let's go quickly. This is an NPARK project. We did this project with JPS and also BBA, Water Watch, and NPARK Resident Association. So basically, 4 things: rainfall harvesting, installation of water-saving devices, and water-saving campaign, and so on. 1 to 3, we change water behavior. And number 4, we change human behavior. And 4 is the most difficult. When the guy is used to having 4 or 5 showers a day, you tell him only you can have 2. It's very difficult. But the people who change it, they understand. Okay, so launched on 2009. Before that, we had a pre-stakeholder engagement to see that whether they want the project or not. It's funded actually by the federal government. Covered by the press as well. We have to put in the sticker here to make sure people don't go and drink the water, because it's not treated. And we collected more water than we can use. We had 6 tanks. Each tank is about 10,000 liters. So most of the water actually used for gardening, flushing toilet, and watering the plants, washing cars also. We changed all the fittings into automatic flush, dual flush system, and so on. And then you can see that the consumption has come down from 120,000 liters per month to about maybe 80,000. So there's a lot of money saved. And then we also engaged about 100 units of the apartments. These are the individuals. You can see that the water consumption was going up. And then after the implementation of this project, it slightly came down. So there's a slight improvement there. So results of the NPARK project, lots of show that the high density apartment actually has very good potential, because a lot of people living in one small area. Rainfall harvesting is very promising because our rainfall is very high. It takes only two rainfall events to fill up already 10,000 liters, because our rain is very intense. This project can be replicated easily in all departments, and of course there are also social benefits, in the sense that when you have the project, people talk to one another. If you don't even know the neighbor. Okay, the USM project is basically almost similar, but USM is even worse. Dr. Jasmine will tell you, we are one of the biggest water consumer in Penang, if not the biggest, one of the biggest. And why? Because nobody pays for the water except the VC. Staff don't pay, cleaners don't pay, students don't pay, visitors don't pay. And the worst culprit is this one over here. This is the timer-based urinal. Every 5 minutes or 3 minutes, it will flush by itself, automatic. So 3-4 months of the year, no student, during holiday, it continues to flush. We seriously need to get rid of this one and change it into the push one, okay? And also, of course, human beings, if I don't pay, I don't care. Results of the project, you can see, from 160 cubic meters per month, came down to about less than 100. Also very successful. Okay, so we are saying that if these 2 projects can be successful and hotels and other big consumers were to, come on board and use this system, we will save a lot of water. Not money, because it is too cheap, the price. Okay, I'm sharing with you my house, my own house. I told you that I've never bought beyond 250 per month, because the PBA lowest is 5 ringgit. I never pay more than 5 ringgit. So you can see that my consumption since 1998, 165 per person per day. And then more recently, I moved into a landed property, but now there are 4 of us, divided by 4, still less than 200. I think I'm okay lah. Not really the pure example, but I'm within the 200. Okay, and also I put in 2 rainfall harvesting tanks. One in the front garden and one in the back garden. 300 liters each I use to water my garden. I don't need to wash my car with PBA water. I'm using this water. And these few weeks are raining all the time. It's always full. So no problem at all. So in my house also, all the fittings are dual flush. And then I use a water regulator for the hose, the nozzle for the hose, and so on. So basically, actually, you need to be more sensitized, and all these things you can find in the market. The water fittings, the saving ones, you can find the market. You don't need to use the traditional one. But of course, you need to sensitize your family. Switch off the tap, the shower when you're showering, using this full load and so on, and using the tail and not the hose. So in conclusion, Penang is a very water-stressed state, and we need to really do something to educate the people. Because one way of increasing water is to get more water. I don't know, maybe Dr. Justice will talk about it. The other one is to make people use less water so that we can share it more. Okay? If you have one pot, of water, more people can use it if everybody were to use less. And it will go a long way. We believe water is finite, but water demand is not. Industry is expanding all the time. Population is increasing, even though we don't have agriculture. And Penangites are actually not very well aware of our precarious water situation. They really think that PBA is the Superman. You can just make water just like this. All this one, no problem. I did this when I moved into the new house, before that renovation, the contractor told me, hey, take away the tank, all the tank rusty already. I said, no, I want to replace with one tank, at least one tank. Don't worry PBA where got no water one. He told me like that, he straight in the face. You do got no confidence, in there no problem Go to Kelantan, got problem that sort of thing, So I have to do away with my two tank here. They're cutted it away. So okay. The rest of the things, I think we have to restructure water tariffs. I think Dr. will talk about that. We continue to raise awareness and education, and we try to make Penang into a water saving society. And the last thing, we always warn them, if you don't start to save water, you want to drink this. I'm sorry if there are any Singaporeans around here, but we threaten them with that. Of course, we don't want to drink recycled water. So only Singapore, many countries in the developed world, you go to the US, Japan, they're also drinking recycled water already. So water, managing water is not in the past just government, water service provider. It's everybody's responsibility. Everybody has to come on board. Not just individuals, household, but hotels, factories, everybody. The Penang Institute, USM, we use a lot of water. I think it's time for you to put it rainfall harvesting and change all the taps into the water saving one. So thank you very much, and I'll take this opportunity to invite all of you to World Water Day on the 23rd April. It's a Sunday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Lots of activities and activities will be planned, and the CM is also coming. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chong, for the informative and interesting talk. It was certainly interesting to know how water saving gadgets can save an enormous amount of water. Ladies and gentlemen, due to our tight schedule today, let us move to our second speaker. Let us now welcome Dr. Justin to deliver his talk.
There's a bit about our company. So I always like to introduce PBA in this sentence. PBA is older than Mercedes-Benz. You believe it? Yeah? When the British came, we started the first modern water supply company in Malaya in 1805. So now we are more than 200 years old. So therefore, we have to always be ahead because we have the knowledge and the experience. So I would like to present my talk today on water demand management. Okay? Next. So these are some of the topics. Next. Okay, just to give you a simple explanation. Actually, currently, we are dependent on more than 84% of the water from Sungai Muda, to be exact. All the catchment that we have in Penang State, supplies only 16%. So we are very, very water stressed. But we manage the water properly, and we manage it so that there is no water rationing in Penang. So this is the boundary between Kedah and Penang. And the middle of the river is the boundary. So we have an intake here, and we transport the water to Sungai Dua treatment plant, which is the largest treatment plant in Malaysia right now. It can produce 1.228 billion liters per day. But right now, we are producing about 1 billion liters per day. Okay? Then, on the island, although you see all the catchments are on the island, but they only supply 16%, but it still has to be protected. We gazetted it in 2004. It took us 12 years to convince the Penang state government to gazette it. Yeah? 12 years. Now, when I first joined PBA in 1985, all these catchments appeared in PBA engineering office. But what I didn't know was that it was merely drawings. The Malays say shop sendiri. It was not gazetted. The only plot of land gazetted was one small piece of land somewhere in Penang Hill, done by the British before the Second World War. And after the independence, the Malaysians forgot to gazette the catchment. So you imagine this is a situation in Penang. What about in Malaysia? We always argue the beginning of the water supply value chain is the catchment. And you must gazette the catchment. Yeah? So we gazetted it in 2004. Now, there we have two twin submarine pipelines below the seabed. Below the seabed, you see where the ferry is going between Penang and Butterworth. That is the shortest route. It is about 3.2 kilometers, and that's where we lay the pipe below the seabed. Why not on the seabed? Because if on the seabed, the currents or the ship's anchors will take the pipes away. So we bury it 20 feet below the seabed. Yeah? And we are in the process of laying a third submarine pipeline to meet the future demand. So, next. Some statistics. Right now, Penang's population is about 1.72 million. Now, I am focusing on the domestic. Why the domestic? They use the most water. 60% of our water is being used by our domestic consumers. So when we are talking about per capita consumption, we are only talking about domestic consumers. We are not talking about the private sector, the factories, yeah? Okay? And the national average is 209, yeah? And our last year's domestic per capita is 286. So a drop of 5 LCD, yeah, compared to the previous year, which is sizable. Okay? Next. Okay. This is the consumption pattern. Penang is increasing at 21% over the last decade. So if you take an average straight line, it's at 2.1%. So if you project forward, you find that we will have a water deficit because there's not enough water available from our primary source, which is Sungai Muda. Okay? Now, this average, I think, is a good average because in between these periods, you have economic downturn. You can see whenever there's an economic downturn, the consumption of water will drop. Yeah? It is always like that. That means less economic activity. Correct? Yeah? Next. This is the future demand. Right now, we are at 827 million liters per day. By 2050, we'll be at 1884. This is about 128% more now. So where are we going to get this additional water? Knowing fully well, Sungai Muda will be fully exploited within the next few years. Okay? Next. This is the population in Penang. Increased average 2.5%. So there's always a joke among my friends. I had a lot of friends who suffered from economic downturn. They had to sell burgers when their business shut down. You heard about it? Millionaires selling burgers. So 97, 98 was one instance. 204, 205 is another instance. But I advise my friends, if you want to do business, do it in the water industry. It's always a positive curve. Correct? It is one business where it doesn't care whether there is inflation, depression, whatever, it's positive. Yeah? Because the population will always grow. And when there is an economic upturn, the demand for your product will be more. Yeah? It is never negative. Yeah? This is the only industry with a positive gradient. Next. This is the per capita demand. So how do you arrive at this per capita demand is you take the domestic population divided by their consumption. So you can see in the year 2000, it was already at 255. And last year, it was 286. Okay. The national average is 209. So just now, Professor Chan and the CEO mentioned, the latest Singapore is at 148. And their target is 140. And their water is 15 times more expensive than Penang. And they are going to raise it more. Recently you saw. So what was the argument? The Prime Minister said what? You must pay water for its value, for its scarcity. Yeah? So they have managed to educate their public. Yeah? But still, when they want to raise, there is resistance. Why? Because water is the basic human right. So you have to balance. But if you want to treat water, distribute water, give good quality water 24/7, 365, you have to pay because you need a lot of people doing the work 24/7. Okay? So I want to show you in 2010, all the time from this period until 2010, PBA, BP never raised the water rates. It was the same water rates. Then we introduced the water conservation surcharge in 2010, the first in the country. Then you see what? It dropped. You see? It dropped. But after that, Penang people got used to it. Because what? It's still cheap. Yeah. Then it goes up again. It goes up. Then we reviewed again in 2013. Then it dropped again. Yeah? Then in 2015, we reviewed again. Then it dropped. So you see, with the introduction of the water conservation surcharge, the domestic per capita is the same in 2009. So this is the positive impact that you can see. Yeah? And it has been that principle everywhere in the world. And that is why in Singapore, in Denmark, the price of water is Scandinavian countries, you would imagine they wouldn't have any water problem, right? But because they want to make sure water supply is sustainable, Denmark's water price is even higher than Singapore. Because they put the environmental tax inside there, they put everything inside there for the people to pay. And with that money, they take care of the environment. So we have to go to that level later, slowly. Next. So these were our challenges last year. All of you know that last year, for almost 6 months, we didn't get rain. It was the worst drought in Penang's history. Yeah? And this is due to climate change. Now, this year, too much rain. But I'm not complaining. Yeah? So I have a very difficult relationship with Wabi Chap. Because whenever I see him, I'll be smiling and he's not so happy. Because why? I got a lot of rain, he's filling our dams, and he got flood problems. So I told him, if only we could keep those extra water in more dams. Then it will cost money, right? Yeah? So, because of climate change, and you can see it from 2014, the entire global climate change is becoming more and more drastic. You can see it, the rain is not like before. The rain comes in a very short burst, but very intense. Very, very intense. And it happened recently again on April Fool's Day. What a day. See? The irony. But of course, the leader of the most powerful nation in the world doesn't believe in climate change. So I can tell you America is in trouble. Serious trouble. Yeah? So we have another very serious matter is the logging in Ulu Buda. So we have been bringing this issue up every year. Currently, I'm handling the 5th Menteri Besar of Kedah. The 5th one. So we have to educate the Menteri Besar of Kedah. Because he does not understand that logging will impact the catchment area. And that catchment area supplies not only to Penang, it supplies to Perlis and Kedah. Would you believe it? Yeah? We are the only country in the world which approve logging in a catchment. And we are also the only country in the world who go and sign the real protocol and say we should not do this, we should not do that. So PBA is doing our part. We are writing to the ministry. We are getting all the NGOs to keep the pressure on. You cannot do logging in the catchment. It's totally, totally wrong. Yeah? Okay? And I calculate at the rate they are logging, they will finish the entire catchment in 12 years. And guess what later? Later, we want to plant paddy, we will use desalinated water. Does it make sense? No, right? Yeah? That's what's going to happen if nobody does anything. So, I hope the people in the Ulu Muda group better shout more. We have done our part. We have written to the ministers. We have to educate the Kedah people to bring us the issue. Because always when we bring up the issue, they say, why is Penang people kill poaching? So we have to get the Kedah people to do it. Now, then, what we did was, we know by 2020, Sungai Muda cannot meet our demand. So we did a study in 2009. We identified Sungai Perak. Okay? And it has been endorsed by the regulator. It has been endorsed by the ministry. But the stumbling block is now the Perak State Pula. We want to buy raw water, they want to sell treated water. So we wrote to the ministry, okay, can you be our umpire? Just like you did between Pahang and Selangor, where you got involved in it, not only involved in it, you called a tender to construct the tunnel. You called a tender to construct Langat 2 in order to make sure Selangor have enough water. So we said, can you please do the same thing between Perak and Penang? And we are still waiting. Okay? Next. So our strategy is very simple. Water supply management, there is a demand side, there is a supply side. So on the demand side, PBAPP has identified 3 major strategies. One is to educate the public, to promote water saving society, and we together with Water Watch, we want to focus on the younger students. No point changing older people. Sorry, but you are also parents, right? So you know, kids up to a certain age, you cannot do anything anymore because they made up their mind. So we target the primary and lower secondary. And we have a 30-year plan so that these children, when they become 30 years old, they will become sensitive to the value of water. Then, of course, we got to review the value of water. This we do periodically. And the third one, water saving device. Now, the big picture is, of course, Professor Chan said, you do this with the NGO now. But the best is to convince the 2 local councils, MPPP and MPSP, to amend the building bylaw and make it mandatory to use water saving device for new projects. That will have a very big impact. Yeah? So I have briefed the EXCO, and I hope this thing will get on. Just amend the building bylaw. By the way, I spoke to a lot of developers. They said, no problem. We are happy to incorporate it. But in Malaysia, if you don't make it law, nobody will follow. So you have to amend the law. This will have a very big impact, because these water saving devices can immediately save 50 to 70% of water. Okay? So you have to educate the Penang people. Okay. Then, of course, the supply side, you have to protect the catchment and RW and upgrade your infrastructure. And the last one, we have identified the Sungai Perak, that SPRWTS is Sungai Perak Raw Water Transfer Scheme. Yeah? Then, of course, you go down the line, you got rainwater harvesting, water recycling, and desalination. You see, the problem, as I told you, nobody will do rainwater harvesting as long as PBA water is cheaper than that. Correct? No factory will recycle their water if PBA water is cheaper than that. Okay? That's why in Singapore, they can do that. Because the price that they fix is the future price of water for Singapore. To be equally shared by the Singapore citizen. It's a future price. What is the future price for Singapore? Is desalinated water. And they are charging it now to make recycling, to make rainwater harvesting, to make desalination economically viable. We have to move slowly into that direction in the long term. Okay, next. So this is last year I had to shout that there is not enough water in the northern region. Yeah? You know, the Beris Dam and the Muda Dam was at a critical level. And nobody was saying anything. Yeah? If we didn't shout, the dam would have been empty. Okay? So I chose to make a press statement at the waterfalls. Okay? This is in case some of you haven't been to the waterfall. I know people who haven't been. It's a beautiful place. And that's the reason why the British came to Penang. Penang was born because of its water supply. Okay? That's how important it is. Because without water, the British cannot make a port. A port must have 24/7, 365. Dry season, wet season, you must have. Because every ship, when it comes into port, have to change water. Why? As long as you got sailors, which are human beings in the ship, they need water. Unless next time your ship are made of robots, then that's a different story. Okay, next. So we made a lot of noise last year because nobody in KL was doing anything. And the dam was empty. Yeah? So then only after that they call a meeting. What to do when there is no water? Do you continue with paddy cultivation when you have no water? It is PBA who recommended to KL that Kedah, Penang and Perlis must stop irrigation in order to survive last year's Super El Nino. And thank God they adopted that decision. If not, it would have been a disaster last year. Next. This is our World Water Day. It was held at Aitam Dam. Yeah? And we do this every year to educate the public. So like Professor Chan said, welcome to this year's World Water Day at the Botanical Gardens, Korea Park on the 23rd of April. Okay, next. Now I talk about the impact of reviewing the water tariffs. A lot of people have been writing about it. So we introduced the water conservation surcharge, the first of its kind in Malaysia, to show how serious Penang is in water demand management. Okay? What we found out that 35,000 liters per month is the universal benchmark on whether you say you use too much water or too little water. Okay? This is also the benchmark adopted by the Ministry of Finance when they want to calculate GST. Okay? If you use less than this, you tak kena GST. You use above that, you kena GST. So this is the boundary. That means for 35,000 liters per month, a family of 5 will live comfortably. That's how it's calculated. Okay? Now, so we introduced the water conservation surcharge for any domestic consumer using above 35,000. So they kena the 24 cents, therefore their rate, instead of 42 cents, for 35 to 40, it becomes 66. So you can see now. So what we found out was 70% of Penang people actually are water saving people. At that time, only 30% used too much water. Okay? So the 70%, when we introduced this tariff, they were not affected. Only those who use above 35,000, they are affected. Okay? Next. So, just now I showed you the graph. When initially it dropped, then the consumption went up again. Then we said, we have to penalize more. We doubled the water conservation surcharge. That's the only thing that we reviewed for domestic. We didn't touch anything else. So actually, we are targeting those people who use more than 35,000. So the majority of Penang domestic consumers are not affected. So with this, again, we found 70% are not affected. This 30% very stubborn. You know what they tell you? Why is okay, Pochi? I have the money lah. Penang people tell you, what's the big deal to you? I can afford it. Yeah, but I said, this is not for you. This is for your future children and grandchildren. We must make sure they also have enough. That's the key word here is sustainability. I'm a public listed company, PBA. Surely I want to earn more. But water business is a forever business. So you must ensure it continues into the future. You have to be sustainable. Of course, we want to make profits, but decent profits. In case you all don't know, we are regulated by SPAN. Also, water business, you cannot make too much profit. The regulator won't approve. Yeah? When you submit your tariff, they will cut it down. Okay? Because, like I said, water is a basic human right. Okay. So, next. Then, we introduce another water tariff. The first time, we go down to the second band. So here, again, 47% of the domestic consumers who use less than 20,000 were not affected. But the one that is still using more is still 20%. These are the stubborn few, but also those who say they can afford it. Okay, next. How cheap is Penang water? This is in Malaysia. Okay? You must remember PBAPP is supplying this price, which is half compared to Selangor, 1/3 compared to Johor. We still make reasonable profits, and there is no water rationing. So, but you can see it is too low. That's why even when we review, the impact is small. Because I always make a joke to my friends that the price of PBA water for a small family, and by the way, it's not worthwhile for PBA to send a bill every month because the postage will cost more than the water. So we are billing bi-monthly. So for a small family in Penang, the price that you have to pay is less than a cup of coffee in Starbucks. That's not cheap. Then the American friend, wow, that's really cheap. Yeah. Because at this rate, you will be paying how many dollars per month? And you multiply by 2, still nothing. So we always say, please put your utility bills on the table and tell me whether you can feel anything or not. You put the water bill, you put the TMB bill, you put your telco bill, and then you see what's the difference. Okay? Next. Then we compare in the region. Again, we are the cheapest. Okay? So, and you look at Tokyo, $5.55. Okay? Soon, Singapore will beat Tokyo because they will increase by 30%. So that's where they are going. But that is not expensive actually. That's the cost to give good quality water 24/7. That's the real cost in that country. Yeah? Okay, next. So here we are talking about this water saving device. Like I said, the fastest way is to amend the building bylaw. It's the fastest way. And the developers got no problem complying with it. Yeah? So I hope the state can make it faster. You can save a lot of water for new projects lah. We're not talking about past projects we have been approved for future. Yeah. Okay, next. These are the countries who are also having water stresses and they are implementing. Okay, so Australia, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Singapore, UK, USA. So we hope Malaysia will also join in, and Penang can do it faster to amend the building bylaw. Next. So basically, you have to manage both sides. Yeah? So, like, you know that the raw water cannot increase, but can decrease. So if you cannot find another source, the next important thing to do is to reduce your consumption. Okay? And if the public, we educate, is taking too long a time, then we have to introduce other ways of reducing their consumption through water-saving devices, through reviewing the water tariffs to reflect the actual cost of producing the water. Okay? So, and until our society respect water, how do you know when our country respect water? Right now, our country don't respect water. You know why? You go to the river, which end of the house is facing the river? The toilet or the front? You go in Malaysia, the toilet is facing the river. That is why we have not respected. You go to other countries, it is the front of the house that is facing the river, because you want to enjoy the beautiful scenery, the clear water. We are different. So you need to turn the Malaysians' heads. To me, that is a proof when the Malaysian society respect water. When they put the front of the house, their veranda, to look at the river. Right now, tak boleh lah kan? They put the toilet, the whatever, into the river. So we need to change that mindset from and every other NGO here, so that people respect water. Like in Japan, it is in their blood, in their DNA. Water is like God in Japan. You know, water is like God. Because they say everything mankind does, you need water. So they really respect water in Japan. Until it reached a religious level. Yeah? If you see some of their drains is so clear. There's no rubbish. Because they respect water. So we have to move in that direction, and PPA will try to assist. But at the same time, our contingency plan, we have to take care of the supply side. Because changing people is not easy. You agree or not? Singapore is able to do it because they have the political will. But then it's a small state. Lee Kuan Yew had the political will. He knew that in Singapore, water is a strategic commodity. Correct? And so is Penang. And so when you define water as a strategic community, when I was there, I asked them, what is the budget for your water supply? They look up to the sky. No limit, my friend. No limit. That's how serious they are. So, then when Lee Kuan Yew knew that if he doesn't solve this water problem, the treaties with Johor will end in 2061, he raised the water tariff by 1,000% 23 years ago. And he made the right decision. If not, Singapore won't survive today. Yeah? So, if you have the political will, kena buat lah. Now, the problem is, people think that well, it rains here every day, so why you worry? But you can see what in Malaysia, it rains every day, but in so many states had water rationing. It's coming, yeah? Correct? So you have to educate the public to value water. At the same time, we will do our job to manage the supply system properly. Okay, thank you very much.